going to go through this kind of quick, so John has some time to do our walk at outside. But I'm basically going to be talking about local examples, cities, districts, programs that are happening here in your backyard. Just a little background about SBBC and our organization. We're a nonprofit membership organization that really promotes active transportation with a particular focus on bicycling access. So we work with cities, governments, county, council members, everyone and anyone to get more access to walking, bicycling, public transit, getting people on bikes. So right now, part of our program, we're involved with about 32 schools in both Santa Clara and Santa Clara counties, and these are a few of the cities and school districts in which we're working with. As Marty mentioned, the way different Safe Routes to School programs are funded in different areas varies by, for example, in San Mateo County, a lot of the funding is really going to school districts for them to reach out to schools and have them agree ahead of time that they would be willing to take Safe Routes to School programs that emphasize the 5 E's. They really focus a lot on the education and encouragement aspect of it, but it's part of our job to get different players within the city, transportation, community members to get involved and make it a comprehensive approach. So one of the 5 E's that Marty talked about is education. The way we take focus in our program is we try to do as much interactive education as we can through schools. And just while I was standing here, I was looking at their class schedule right here. So you can see every single minute is accounted for. They have standards that they need to meet. They need grades that they need to raise. So we really need to find the appropriate time to teach some of these skills that are essential to getting not only kids equipped with walking and biking to school, but parents being comfortable sending their kids to school. I think that's what we find that's one of the major problems with safe routes and getting kids walking and biking. It's the perception of safety and the perception of their kids' ability to do it. So as far as education, we try to reach them through the PE periods. That's the approach we've taken because through PE they have some standards about self-awareness, motor skills, all that. So the way we've done it is we do a 2-part sessions in most of the programs we're in, including 7 schools in Santa Clara, where we come out, we do 1 session in class, kind of like we're all sitting here, we talk about rules of the road, things you need to do to keep yourself safe, things just to consider while you walk or bike. Second part of that, we go out into a playground, we bring a few bikes, we encourage kids to bring their bikes, equip them with helmets, and we practice different essential skills, looking over your shoulder, crossing intersections, different types of things. And we're also try to work with larger groups, with assembly groups, after school programs. There's a lot of YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, throughout, I think, most schools, especially here in Santa Clara County. So we try to find the avenues through which we think they'll have that free time that they could focus some of education and encouragement. We also try to do some parent education through parent meetings. A lot of schools have PTAs, a lot of schools don't. So we really try to focus on individual schools and find out what would work for them and their community. So we try to reach parents with trainings, both bicycle and pedestrian safety, but also general traffic. A lot of times the problems around schools are the same: parents speeding, using cell phones, and going over that. I'll cover that a little bit later. Encouragement, it's really about motivating and inspiring parents and students to walk, to continue to walk, and to bike if possible. So there are a few big events that are done nationally and regionally as well. Some of the big ones are International Walk and Bike to School Day that happens in October, and National Bike to School Day that happens in May. These are some of the programs that might be good to get something going in different schools where you're not having a full comprehensive approach, but you have one event, you can get the school focused on one single thing, and then just keep momentum going from there. Other encouragement things, events and activities we do are walking school buses, as Marty mentioned. It's really getting parents to talk to each other. Neighbors these days don't really know each other. When you get out of the house, you jump in your car and you go about your day. When I grew up, which wasn't that long ago, there was a bus stop right in front of my house. And I chose to walk or bike because we did it with our friends. We all met together on our way to school. We stopped by the Winchells. We got a donut. We got to school. So it is a social activity, and that's how we try to sell it with walking school buses. Not only parents connecting with other parents, but students getting to know their neighbors and making it a social event. There's other things that could be organized. Walking challenges, competition among classes and students really drives participation. And then there's different alternatives that you can do to reduce traffic around schools. You can designate a drop-off area at a local park, at a church parking lot, somewhere where you could alleviate the traffic that goes into schools during the morning and pickup times. And a few other activities, try to involve entire families, organize events after school where we encourage parents and kids to bring their bikes. They get to practice a few drills outside in the blacktop. Maybe bring a local mechanic from a bike shop that can do minor repairs, tune-ups, different things to get people equipped and make sure their bikes are safe to ride. And carpooling is also another thing, but again, you need to talk to people to get these things set up. Evaluation and engineering are a few of the big components that are part of taking a holistic approach to it. Evaluation, a lot of times, by the grants that different school districts and cities get, those are required. And it's really just to measure, what are we starting with and see if there's been any change, whether you're there for a year, for 2 years, or whatever the length is. And there are different resources regionally that have developed. There's the standard surveys that have been developed by the National Safe Routes to School Center, also by MTC. So there's different resources that you can get out there that they are prepared. All you need to do is just hand those out. Parent surveys. There's also parent surveys that get feedback about how parents feel about their commute to school. What's keeping them from walking or biking? What's keeping them from allowing their kids to walk or bike? And it's also gather information about how far they live from school, and it gives you different insights into just the mind of parents. And student travel tally. Sometimes it's just having teachers ask their students how they got to school on a particular day. Have them raise their hand if they walk to school, raise their hand if they bike to school. And it really helps you capture just a snapshot of how kids are getting to school. Just in the areas that we've worked here in Santa Clara County, it's some of the walking and biking percentages are relatively high. We've been getting some 20s, 30s, 40s, and in some places like East Mall, also some schools, up to 50% of kids walking or biking to school. Well, mainly walking. Bicycling still between 1 and 5% in most schools. But that helps you really determine whether you need to convince people to walk or bike, or you just need more encouragement to get them doing it more often. We also do engineering, which is part of forming a task force within, if it's a district-wide program, getting district involved, district representatives, school representatives, principals, getting cities involved. All cities have a transportation or a public works department that could have a representative that's, their vested interest is to making sure streets are safe for parents to walk, bike, but also drive. Through some surveys we conducted, these are some of the top concerns that have been risen in most communities. Really drop-off, pick-up traffic near schools. Schools weren't designed to take in the capacity of the traffic they see now. So finding ways how that could be redesigned. Speeding is a big thing, cell phone use, lack of signage sometimes, whether it's school zone or speed signs. And lack of bike lanes is, I think, the huge part of why kids aren't biking or walking to school nowadays. Really, again, this is about getting more schools involved and participating in the program, getting into the movement of safe routes to school, not just for health, not just for transportation, but also it's a social event. Getting to know your neighbors, and there's safety numbers. The more people that are walking, the more people that are biking. Generally, the safer it is because you have fewer cars out there. Just about bringing a Safe Routes to School program to your school. These are some of the steps that are and resources that you can find in the National Safe Routes to School Center. I did bring a few handouts from their website, and I can put their website up there and leave a few here in case you guys are interested in taking that with you and getting something going at your school. But again, it's really about getting the right people together and doing the right approach for that individual school or that individual district. One approach or one thing's not going to work for everyone, so it's highly customizable. As far as local resources, we talked about that. You know, some of the resources in there are Transform Us, city governments. You know, here in San Jose has the Safe Routes to School program. Funding's coming from VTA, so you could find some real information there. Also, online resources are listed here. Are you guys making the presentation available online?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All
so
these
you can get all these resources
and
when you get there.
we've even got video here, so this presentation will be available on.
And sorry for rushing, we just want to
Yeah.
get through everything. And if you have any particular questions for me about the work we're doing, or if you want to get something going, here's my contact information.
And for everybody who can't see that, that says Ernesto at bikesiliconvalley.org.
My name is John Chigarelli, and I'm glad to be one of your presenters. I have a company called Bicycle Solutions, that's me. This is my second career in transportation. I was a software designer, that's what brought me to Silicon Valley earlier. Did that for 18 years and got kind of tired of compile debug, so I decided to do something different. I do all sorts of things. I'm a state traffic pedestrian safety evaluator, get sent to lots of cities to help them rapidly identify problems and work out quick plans like this one to fix them, to put a crosswalk across a busy street. I do bicycle infrastructure for big buildings. I sit on the State Traffic Control Devices Committee and the National Technical Committee for Bicycling. And I coach a lot of people. I've taught over 600 adults and kids how to ride a bike, how to ride a bike better. So I have first-hand involvement on a one-on-one basis with understanding how bicycling is learned and how to make it work. I also teach professional development classes. So I'm a one-man band. I don't do all those things at once, though. Okay. Our timeline today is I want to start with this is if I had more time available. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how an engineer and a planner looks at a sidewalk in a walking environment, and we're going to take a walk around the block. We'll come back if we have time. We'll talk about what we saw. We'll do that, some of that as we go. A school neighborhood walkout is the key tool. When you finally get a program together, you start saying, well, what's stopping people from walking to school? Some of it might be fears of crime, fears of bullies, fears of drug deals in a low-income or a disadvantaged neighborhood. But sometimes it's just infrastructure. It's like there's no good walking route, or the sidewalks are too narrow, or it's hard to cross because it's dangerous. Maybe it's traffic, something like that. So there's two parts to it. There's a part where you can do inside the school, inside a room like this, and do some planning work. Let's roll a map out on the table and find out, well, where should we look for the hot spots? Then there's actually walking out around the school, usually with some trained professional. Could be Ernesto, could be Marty, could be myself, or a company that you hire to who's seen this in lots of different places. Like I've visited over 80 cities in California through the Pedestrian Safety Assessment Program. I've seen probably 200 schools for drop-off areas, anywhere from super urban to super rural. So I look at a new place like the Burbank here, and I can apply some of that knowledge. I look at that and say, that looks like this. These are the three things I've seen. So I'm hoping to share some of the ways that I look at sidewalks and crossings. And so if you get a team together, concerned parents, the engineers in the city, the planners in the city that can help take your perceptions and turn them into improvement plans. Neighbors, because neighbors interface with the school too. Traffic safety officers, the police, either the school resource officer or the traffic safety patrol officers with the police department. Elected officials can often make resources happen to make improvements happen. So the idea is to convert your perceptions and findings around the school into a plan that can be turned into new crosswalks, new signs, new markings, better ways of operating the street. It could be real simple. It could be just some signs to make it more apparent that there's a crosswalk there. It could be real complex. Maybe we need to blow out this intersection because it just doesn't work and that's expensive. Everything in between. The success factors, if you're going to try and create this at your school, somebody's got to step up and say, you know, I think I'll lead this program. I may not do anything after this year, but this is going to be my baby this year to get this thing going. In the Safe Routes world, we call that a champion. Could be a concerned parent, PTA leader, or a staff member, maybe one of the administrators of the school, or a teacher. Okay, somebody who's going to make it happen, not say, no, somebody else lead this thing. Concerned parents. If parents aren't concerned, it's not gonna move. Okay, you've gotta have a concern. At some schools, this has started with a concern with crime. You know, it's unsafe for the kids to walk to school because there's bullies, there's drug deals, there's bad dogs. It's just, there's sidewalks, but nobody's gonna use them because they're too scared. Okay, so Alisal School down in Salinas, where I first did the Safe Routes project way back in 1998, had this problem, and they galvanized the community. They got all the players on the previous slide together, city, police, bus drivers, everything, and they solved their crime problem. Once they did that, they took that immense momentum and turned the searchlight and pointed it on walking and biking to school, namely walking to school and getting the drop-off area to work. They were amazing. So they built momentum around crime and personal safety and security, and then brought it to traffic safety. And having the school on board is important too. Usually this isn't a problem. The school is more than willing to be a partner if they don't have to do it all themselves. So let's look a little bit about how pedestrian planners think about sidewalks. This is a sidewalk you might see in downtown San Jose in redevelopment area. It's a commercial sidewalk, but it's got the pieces that are in every walking environment. It's got a street. We're not going to talk about the street. The street has a curb. Ideally, it's a vertical curb so the cars don't park up on the sidewalk. Okay. The sidewalk itself has three parts to it. And this is a big, big sidewalk in a commercial area, but it's got the three big parts. A place to walk, a place between the place to walk and the street to put stuff like trees and what we call street furniture, lights, bike racks, trash cans, okay, fire hydrants. Okay. And then up against the building, if you want to sit against the building, the place where you sit shouldn't sit out in the sidewalk and block the pedestrian, the travel zone. It should have its own space. This is where you put signs. The building has plants in front of the building, the doors, so you can sit there and talk, or you can stand there and look at the store windows. So that's a commercial cross-section. Here's the same thing in a residential area alongside an apartment building or condo complex. It's got the same three zones. They're not the same size anymore, though. And here's one that might apply to school areas, so we'll focus on this one. Okay, in the school area, what we call the furniture zone, it might be used for trees, but it's also used for opening the car door and getting the kids in and out of the car. Okay, if that's not provided, and this goes to the curb, then part of what you should be pedestrian travel to in front of the school is going to be taken up and obstructed when you get people in and out of the car. For our walk, we're going to use a standard two-page or one-page checklist that the Safe Routes to School National Program publishes. It has 5 sections, and we're going to quickly review those 5 sections. The idea is that pretty quickly you can get an idea where the whole thing is awful, or not so bad, or really good by scoring each of the 5 sections. And the score uses a rating schedule from 1 is awful to 6 is excellent. So this is going to be kind of a rush to get out and get back. This will give you a flavor of what you would do on a walk out if you had more time and more preparation. One thing that's missing today is a really good map. Ideally, I'd like to send you all out with a map of the place where we walk, so you can mark stuff on the map as we encounter it. And one of the best map exercises I've ever seen, I did with a local company called Fair and Piers in the Albany City Active Transportation Plan. We made up a map that was as big as this room and put it in a school auditorium, and people would walk onto the map, find their house, and then write their line to school. It's very cool. And it's very easy to do. You just have to pay for the computer printing and tape it all together, and it's a very effective thing. Sometimes you make a map that's as big as a large table. That can work very well too. But this was especially cool because people, including kids, they would kneel down and they'd say, "There's my house." And that corner is scary. And so that's really effective. Another thing that can be done is to take pictures. If you go out with everybody's got a phone now, and most of those phones have cameras, take pictures and then come back and share the pictures and use that as an experiment as an exercise to share what was good and bad. So let's explore the 5 sections of the form. Do you have room to walk? This goes back to those diagrams. Is there an adequately wide pedestrian travel area, the main core of the sidewalk? Is stuff that should be in the furniture zone in the pedestrian travel zone? That fire hydrant's the wrong place, I'm sorry. This sidewalk, can you identify on this sidewalk here where the travel zone is? Yeah, it's between this little planter here and all these planters that are along the fronts of the buildings. Okay, can you identify the frontage zone along the buildings? Yeah, it's where this guy is standing and looking at everything that's happening on the street and these planters which are ornamental. If this was a storefront, this would be where the displays were and the goods for sale. And here's your furniture zone. So sure enough, there's the three parts. Furniture zone on this is this little piece here. The fire hydrant's in the wrong place, and they haven't left their 1 foot buffer along the fence. So we've got boxes like either, yes, it's all really good, or there were some problems. The sidewalk is interrupted, the sidewalk's broken, the sidewalk's blocked, there is no sidewalk, or there's too much traffic racing along the curb, I don't feel safe on the sidewalk. Okay, so you give this a rating, maybe it's overall, it looks like a 4 out of 6 to me. And you move on to the next section. Next section is, if we had to cross the street, was it easy to cross the street? We're not actually going to have time to cross the street, but we're going to stop at 4 corners and also and look at those 4 intersections and see whether it'd be easy to cross the street at those intersections. We're also going to notice some places between the intersections on our 4 sides where it might be that someone would want to cross the street because of something that's on the other side, like an entrance into a football field or an entrance into a business. So not only do engineers and planners create crossings at intersections, they also create crossings between intersections. There's one right in front of the school here. We'll take a look at that. And those are called mid-block crossings, that's the term. And there are ways to engineer mid-block crossings to make them much safer. If it's a wide street and you have a place to cross, what's a good thing to have right in the middle of the street?
Pedestrian refuge.
What's that's a fancy name for what?
An island.
An island, that's right. So an island, either an island for me to step up on, or 2 islands that protect me while I look in the other direction. That mid-street island is a great thing on a busy street because what does it do to my decision process? How does it make it easier?
2-phase.
Okay, that's right. If I try to cross the whole street at once, I've got to deal with traffic from this direction and this direction. So I've got to be vigilant through that entire turn of my head. If I can divide it into half, I can make a good decision here, wait as long as I need to, make a good decision there. So not only are each decision is simpler, but I can separate them in time. I don't have to make a bet on that direction and that direction at once and ready, set, okay, whole street. So divide and conquer. So easy to cross the streets. Third is, did drivers behave well? Now frankly, it's Saturday, okay? So school's out. We're not going to get an experience of the school traffic today. So you're going to have to put on your imagining hats and imagine that it's the peak of the morning drop-off period and what's happening along those curbs. So some of them will have clues that, as to what might be happening there because the curbs will be a certain color, like green, which is usually for short-term drop-off, or white, or red, which means no parking. Some of the clues will be signs, like there might be signs along the street that say 12-minute parking. 12-minute parking, what's that good for? School drop-off, right? Or 2-hour parking, that's probably something different. Number 4, was it easy to follow safety rules? This is about, does the environment for walking really do its job? If it doesn't do its job, then I might, even though they told me to cross at the corner, there might be a reason why I don't feel safe crossing at the corner. So I would have to go against people's expectations for safe traffic movement and cross somewhere else because I, as a human being or as a parent, think it's safer. So this is really saying, is the environment making it so that I can do the right thing by following the rules? If I have to violate the rules in order for me to feel safe, something's wrong. And the final section is, was it pleasant? Okay. For many people walking to school, it's a necessity. There is no other way. You don't have a car to get to school. You don't have a bike to get to school. It's the only way to go. But if it's a choice, that choice is better be pleasant, or the parent's going to say, "No, I'm going to drive my kid. It's not pleasant. It's unpleasant. It's scary." So we make parkways for cars. We put landscaping on freeways to make it pleasant to drive. Why shouldn't we make it pleasant to walk? If it's a choice, let's make it a pleasant choice. That's what this is about. So for each of those 5 seconds, you give it a rating. and we come back and summarize the ratings. Here's our walk. We are right here, and we're going to walk actually out to the front of the school and down to San Carlos and start all the way around here, and we'll end up back here. This is the school's district, which actually is also the same as the school's residential area. This is San Carlos Street, so we're only going to go around this one little block here. But kids walk from as far away as about 7 blocks this way, as far away as about 2 long blocks this way. And this is San Carlos, so the kids that come from south to San Carlos have to cross the big street. Now, it looks to me like this is a pretty well-engineered intersection for crossing, but you be the judge of that. When we get back, if we have time, we can answer some questions. Turn on your engineer hats. You guys,
This is bad.
this is a time for to cease conversations, and unless the conversation is about the street and the sidewalk and the walking environment, feel free to talk to each other and notice things because you get points for that. Okay. Okay.
This is bad.
This is a problem.
Bad. Well.
Really bad. You don't get 5 feet.
Okay. Okay. So what would 2 able-bodied adults do when they got to this point? Split around it. Okay. So in fact, you can walk around it. What about if you're in a wheelchair? Okay, can you make it around it? Yeah, you got your 36 inches. But still, if you were, king of the world, you could probably move this telephone pole over here and make it a little more pleasant. Does this sidewalk have a furniture strip, furniture zone? Well, actually, it does. And this is when you need to think like a plane instead of just, if you look down here, from where I'm looking, okay, where's the obstruction? Okay. Okay, can someone walk down there and point to me from left side to right side? What's the pedestrian travel zone? Starts right there, goes to there. Okay, so how many people wide is that? Can somebody else go down and stand next to him? Barely 2. Barely.
All right, we were blocking the pedestrian.
Okay. Okay, so what we clearly have a pedestrian travel zone. How wide is it? It's about 2 people wide. A rule of thumb, 2.5 feet per adult. 2.5 feet per adult. So a standard residential sidewalk 5 feet wide is 5 feet wide because it stores 3 adults. Too. So if I'm walking in the other direction, I can cross by another adult. If I'm walking with a kid, 2.5 feet's comfortable. Okay, the furniture zone is the utility pole and this street sign, and this pole here is kind of out of place. Yeah, okay. Does it have a frontage zone here? Well, it's the whole schoolyard. When it gets down further, does it have a frontage zone? Not really. There's nothing there. You're right up against the fence. Is there a landscape buffer along the fence? No, the fence comes right up to the sidewalk edge. So if I'm walking along there, as we will in a minute, I'm probably going to shy away a little bit. So the effective width of the pedestrian travel zone is reduced by about 1 foot. If I was putting that fence in fresh and that fence had to be as far towards the street as possible, I would set it back 1 foot. Okay, let's walk down to the corner. Okay, let's begin our walk on it. So we're actually going to turn around and walk back the way we came, but I want to start fresh here. What's the first thing you see along the curbside here? Very first thing, can somebody point to it and touch it? Yeah, it's a school sign, okay? In the engineering manual for setting up a safe area around the school, it's called a school zone. And a school zone typically has not only markings, but signs. And the sign that announces you're coming to a school looks like this. Has what's called a school pentagon, that sign up on the top, with something on the bottom. It might be the word school to say, here you're coming up to the school, or it might be an arrow that says, here's a crosswalk, something like that. A sign's purpose is to get motorists to notice that there's something ahead, okay? Yellow signs are warning signs. They say, you might not have noticed this, so we're going to give you a yellow sign to notice it. A white sign is what's called a regulatory sign. It's a sign that states the law. So the law is the speed limit. There's another regulatory sign just beyond what's in say. Open parking. So what do you think that parking's for if it's only for 12 minutes? Yeah, it's drop off. Or drop off and walk in, probably. One key difference between the activities along the curb and a school zone is, does the parent get out of the car or not? Okay. if you have to pump a lot of cars through and drop a lot of kids off, you want to differentiate between the place where parents are allowed to get out of the car and the place where they're not allowed to get out of the car, and the kid has to get out of the car and go in. Parents of little kids don't like to let their kids just go from the car, they like to walk them in. What would be something that you could do to allow the parent to stay in the car and still feel like their child was going to be safe getting from there into the school, which is only 20 feet away? If you had a good parent group operating. Have somebody out monitors or an ambassador or a parent helper. That's right, someone trained, maybe with an identifying vest that they trust, because maybe they've been to a night meeting that says meet your parent ambassadors. So the parent ambassador opens the car door, helps the kid out, takes him in hand, and is a trusted individual to walk them into the school. And now suddenly you've converted that parent that wants to stop and park their car and turn off the ignition and walk their kids in and block the curb into a parent that's willing to drop off and go. Okay? That's a big tool when you look at a school zone. If you look at it just in terms of capacity, you're going to count 20 feet, 20 feet, 20 feet, 20 feet, and say, I can only get 6 cars in here. But if you manage it with parent ambassadors or monitors, you can make that zone work a lot differently. Okay? Let's walk. This is the bulb outs. Okay? If we've got red curb here, and let's say we had red curb here, could somebody walk the outline of the bulb out and show me how big this bulb out could be, starting back at the back of the red curb? Okay, so the bulb out could be as deep as the car. It can come out to there, and then it can come along here. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. And now you're going to start to turn the corner. Wrap around the corner at the same distance. Okay? Okay, you're done with the corner. Now walk on. And now go back to the curb. Everything to the right of him can be concrete, okay? Because there's no parking there, there might be no parking here, okay? If that was the case, this one curb ramp that forces wheelchair users out in the street could be replaced by a curb ramp here, and a raised curb here. Okay, so that's what bulb outs can do for you. Now, the reason he had to walk out into the street is because there's no landscape buffer here. Okay, if there's a landscape buffer like here, it's simpler to do a bulb out. This all plays together. If you've got a landscape buffer, especially like 4 feet, then it's easy to do 2 curb ramps at the corner. This kind of what's called an attached sidewalk is kind of a relic of the 1950s and 1960s when things started to go towards car-oriented design. We went away from the classic city design. So the pieces, once you learn the pieces of the toolkit, the pieces include that buffer in the furniture strip, and that helps the corners work well. Okay. What does a tight corner do for traffic, for motorist behavior compared to a big wide corner? Speeds, turning speeds. That's right.